Well, then it's 10 o'clock, and the next company on our oncology seminar, ExpreS2ion Biotech. And with me today, I have Mette Thorn, Vice President, and as well as Keith Alexander, the CFO. And for the audience, if you have questions for the Q1 report, the company today announced Q1 results. We will host an event with the company the 9th of June, and please ask questions about the report 9th of June instead of today, because only the 25 minutes, and we would like to focus on oncology and especially projects from each company within this area. And welcome to Mette, welcome to Keith. I know that you have a very interesting story to tell the audience about your focus on oncology, and the 25th of May, you actually released a very interesting message for your project. So I will hand over the word to you. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you, Klaus, and thank you for hosting us today. I think we do have an interesting story that we can convey to the audience, and Bent will be happy to come back on next Thursday to talk about the Q1 results. So I'll give a brief introduction to the company for those who haven't heard it before, and then Mette will take over and provide an update on our breast cancer vaccine candidate. All right, if we go to the next slide, we have our disclaimer, and I'll save you all from reading it. I think you've seen this disclaimer before and are familiar with it. To give a brief overview of our company, we're a key player in the advanced protein science market, and we have a deep pipeline of novel vaccines addressing high-value markets. This is all backed up by a contract research organization which has generated over 60 million Swedish krona in sales since the IPO in 2016. Our vaccine development platform has a track record of success and partner validation. I think you've heard about it from Bent before, and we won't go into too much detail on that today. We produced over 500 proteins while posting over a 90% success rate. This makes us the go-to provider for challenging proteins. The global vaccine market has been growing rapidly since 2019. It was $33 billion in size back then, and now it's $187 billion, corresponding to a 460% growth. COVID has, of course, been driving a lot of the growth. However, the interest has remained for other vaccines since then. ExpreS2ion is advancing toward key catalysts during 2022, which will help de-risk our platform. Last week, we published additional preclinical data for our breast cancer vaccine candidate, which Mette will discuss in her remarks. I have to pause for just one moment. I think that Mette is knocking on my door. I need to make sure she's ready. So I apologize for 1 minute.
Yeah, and just to the audience, sorry for the interruption, but they're going to join together in the same room, so it takes 2 seconds. They will be back. So Keith is with us again. I think he have Mette on his side. Welcome, Keith.
Exactly. Small technical difficulty, but not a problem. I'll move on to the next slide. As you may have seen, we announced our Q1 results this morning, and I won't go into much detail here. We'll do that on a separate call, except to say that we're extremely well capitalized, especially after the rights issue. At the end of the first quarter, we had 125 million Swedish krona in cash and other short-term investments. And since then, we completed the rights issue in which we raised 75 million Swedish krona before transaction costs. I think it's also important to note on this slide that increasingly our model is driven by costs related to the preclinical development of our breast cancer vaccine candidate, which Mette will discuss briefly or in a moment. Looking at our pipeline, it is a deep pipeline. In the near term, our coronavirus vaccine candidate is under development by Bavarian Nordic. We expect them to initiate the phase 3 sometime in the next month. They've said that they will initiate it before the end of the first half. So we're looking forward to see the data from that. But today the focus is on our breast cancer asset, which is in preclinical development with a phase 1 initiation targeted for 2024. It's important to note that this is 100% owned by ExpreS2ion, whereas much of our other candidates are developed in various consortia or with partners. Our other candidates are in influenza and malaria, and there we have partners such as the Indigo Consortia, the Walter Elisa Hall Institute, University of Oxford, and other institutes like the Wellcome Trust. So with that, I'll hand it over to Mette, who will take over and discuss our breast cancer vaccine candidate.
Then I put on the camera. Hello, I'm happy to be here with you today. During the next 10 minutes, I will shortly describe ExpreS2ion's vaccine platform, the potential of ExpreS2ion's breast cancer vaccine compared to current treatments, and I'll show you a robust proof of concept data package from the preclinical stage where we are now. So ExpreS2ion's vaccine technology platform is based on ExpreS2ion's ExpreS platform, by which vaccine antigen proteins are produced in insect cells, and AdaptVac's VLP delivery platform, by which vaccine antigen proteins are bound and presented to the immune system on the surface of a virus-like particle. This principle has been applied in the corona vaccine that ExpreS2ion has engaged in, and now acquired by Bavarian, and the same principle has been exploited in the breast cancer vaccines, which I will talk about today. Very shortly, I'll touch upon the construct of the breast cancer vaccine, where the vaccine antigen in question is HER2, the human epidermal growth receptor 2, which is overexpressed in 15 to 20% of breast cancers. The vaccine antigen consists of 4 domains of the extracellular portion of HER2, as depicted in the upper illustration. What are the current treatment options for breast cancer patients? Well, since 1998, trastuzumab with the trade name Herceptin has been used as the standard of care treatment for HER2-positive breast cancer patients. Trastuzumab is a monoclonal antibody directed against one specific domain of HER2, whereas the antibodies generated in response to ExpreS2ion's vaccine will bind to several domains of HER2, as the antibody response will be polyclonal. Trastuzumab reduced tumor cell dividing and induced tumor cell destruction by binding to domain 4 of HER2. Pertuzumab with the trade name Perjeta is another monoclonal that is currently used in combination with trastuzumab. However, drawbacks exist with these therapies, as most breast cancer patients over time develop resistance to the trastuzumab treatment. Some patients experience cardiac toxicity, and repeated injections every 3rd week are required until the patient are cured or resistance develops. ExpreS2ion's HER2 VLP vaccine offers potential to overcome some of these drawbacks. In the following, I'll show you robust proof of concept data of our breast cancer vaccine ES2B-C01. The data has been generated in 2 different mice strains. To the left, you'll find data from a model in FEB mice. The FEB mice are HER2 intolerant, which means that these mice will recognize the vaccine antigen as foreign, non-self, and right away induce an immune response against HER2. The FEB mice in these models were inoculated or transplanted with HER2-positive tumor cells just underneath the skin in a mammary fat pad, making it possible to measure the size of the tumor growing under the skin. 2 weeks after the inoculation, the mice were vaccinated with ES2B-C01, which was repeated every 2nd week during the study. The black curve is control mice that did not receive the vaccine. The green curve is ES2B-C01 without adjuvant, and the red curve, ES2B-C01 with adjuvant. As you see, the tumor volume increases progressively in the control mice, whereas ES2B-C01 formulated in adjuvant totally blocks tumor development. ES2B01 without adjuvant blocks tumor development in 7 out of 10 mice. To the right, you will find data from a model in Delta 16 HER2 transgenic mice. These mice are born with the HER2 gene and consequently HER2 tolerant. It makes no sense to react against cells, thus the immune system is taught not to, which of course makes it harder to generate an immune response towards HER2 in this model. However, this reflects what happens in humans. It is essential to stress in the study that Delta 16 HER2 transgenic mice spontaneously develop HER2 positive tumors starting from 10 weeks of age. In the graph, the curves show the percentage of tumor-free mice as mice are aging. The percentage of tumor-free mice in the control group, the black curve, decreases progressively as the mice are aging. The red curve are mice vaccinated only twice, with 2 weeks interval, starting at the age of 6 to 8 weeks. These mice were protected from tumor development with 95% efficacy, in contrast to the control group, where all the mice spontaneously developed tumors within 32 weeks of age. To the left on this slide, find in vitro proof of concept data that shows that sera from vaccinated mice inhibit the growth of trastuzumab-sensitive HER2 positive tumor cells, and that sera from vaccinated mice even inhibit trastuzumab-resistant HER2 positive tumor cells. In this in vitro model, HER2 positive tumor cells were seeded in microtiter wells, upon which sera from vaccinated mice containing polyclonal antibodies raised against HER2 was applied in pharmacologically relevant concentrations. The polyclonal antibodies was applied in the same concentration as trastuzumab in the positive control well. These in vitro data encourages that the ExpreS2ion vaccine will work even in breast cancer patients that have developed resistance to the standard of care trastuzumab treatment. Finally, in the graph to the very right, you'll find additional data from a study in HER2-tolerant Delta 16 HER2 transgenic mice. In this study, the mice were injected intravenously with HER2-positive tumor cells, which will spread systemically, and some end up in the lungs, where they will develop into lung tumor nodules. 1 week after injecting tumor cells, the first vaccine was administered and repeated every second week during the study. As you see from the graph, all mice vaccinated with ExpreS2ion with adjuvant were tumor-free at the end of the study, whereas all control mice developed substantial numbers of lung tumor nodules. 8 of 11 vaccinated with ExpreS2ion without adjuvant were tumor-free. The remaining had 1 to 2 tumor lung nodules only. With these words, I hope that I've convinced you about the preclinical efficacy of ExpreS2ion's breast cancer vaccine. And with that, I'll pass over the word again to Keith, who will tell about the timeline, perspectives of the breast cancer vaccine.
Thanks a lot, Mette. A great presentation and then great proof of data on your breast cancer vaccine. With that said, what is next? So you will enter a phase 1/2 study in relation to dosing and stuff like that. Could you elaborate on this already now, how you will design the study?
Hi, now we're joined together. Yeah, there's just one more slide we wanted to show regarding the timeline. As we mentioned, we've just released preclinical proof of concept data last week that was also strong in confirming the earlier data we released at the end of the year. Over the next 6 to 12 months, we'll go through GMP manufacturing and additional preclinical safety studies. And as I mentioned before, we aim to initiate the first in-human trial in 2024. Regarding the clinical trial plan, it is under development, and as you probably saw in our press releases, we have a CMO, Matisse, who is been working on that extensively. I think it's a little bit early to provide details about that. We have some high-level information we can convey in the future, but at this point, I think we don't want to present something that is still under development and subject to potential significant change.
That's all right, Keith. Is it wrong to say that you actually developed the platform and you're a little unique in terms of you have the whole value chain from the discovery phase onto the GMP manufacturing process in-house in ExpreS2ion? With that said, and you have a variety of projects in your pipeline, could you, in terms of that, when we talk about technology, and I know you have an ExpreS2 technology platform, elaborate a little on what feedback you get from your partners. I know the breast cancer project is your own project, but you have a variety of products. Do you understand my question?
I think I do, and I think maybe it's worth mentioning that, well, let's see. I joined ExpreS2ion in October of 2020, and before I joined, in fact, before 2020, the company had been a contract research organization for quite some time. And it's really when COVID came that the company decided to make a transition into making its own pipeline, starting with the COVID vaccine in partnership with our joint venture, AdaptVac, and eventually with Bavarian Nordic, who could take it through trials. And, going forward, we would, of course, like to be developing more in-house. And with the breast cancer vaccine candidate, we're taking that further. Our aim is to take it further than anything we've taken before. At the same time, we do have strong partnerships set up with, for example, University of Oxford and the Walter and Eliza Hall Institute in Australia, which we've been working with for some time. And I think those partnerships are all going quite well. So the feedback has been positive, and we'll continue doing them and see where they take us in the future. A lot of new drug development has to be started through, at least my understanding as a fairly new person to the industry, it has to be started in small steps, and then you decide to focus on which candidates seem like they have the greatest possibility. And so that's the approach we've taken so far.
Yeah, because it's good with partners in terms of cash flow, but also when your actually projects enter into later phases, it also demands, first of all, a lot of funding, but two, a lot of resources. Do you expect to have that in-house, or could you elaborate a little on that?
Sure. I mean, we would like to be able to take the breast cancer vaccine through the first clinical trial. That's our current target. And we have been expanding as an organization. In the last 2 years, we've gone from 17 people in October of 2020 to over 30 people now. And we've been bringing on the right competencies for taking the platform further. And perhaps if we need more people with the right competencies, then we will expand as needed. And yes, that does take capital. I did mention our capital position as of the end of the first quarter, and then that we've also raised additional capital on top of that.
Thanks a lot, Keith and Mette. Let's see if there's some questions from the audience. There's a question about prioritization of the breast cancer project, but you already touched upon that, and you have sufficient funds as well for the next round or the next phase. 2 seconds, I will see if there's further questions, Keith. There's no more questions right now about the breast cancer project. Do you have anything else to add, Keith or Mette, in relation to the breast cancer project?
No, I think that's fine. I think we provided the latest data, or Mette has provided the latest data and an explanation there. We think it looks very strong, and we're looking forward to the continuing development of the program.
Thanks a lot, both of you. And then we look forward, great presentation, first of all, and then we look forward to host you the 9th of June, where you will present your Q1 report, and where we also are able to ask more general questions about the pipeline.
Great. Thank you, Klaus.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Enjoy your day. Thanks a lot.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.